Go. All righty. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to whoever watches this. Today's going to be super educational, anything and everything to know about cultivars and testing and NTEP trials. I met Bruce back in 2021 because the cultivars that I was running here were extremely aggressive at producing seed stalks. And that gets ugly, once they go to die off. And not only that, they're unpleasant to walk on. So my first phone call with Bruce in 2021 was why and how. And simply he answered, your cultivars that are truly turf type do not produce that much of a seed head. That's why they cost more money. So without further ado, let's bring in Bruce. And I want to say thank you for taking the time to teach us, Bruce.
Mr. Ole.
Yes, sir.
Go back to 2021. Yeah, I remember that phone call. I remember that time. We've had so many meetings. I have been to Salisbury, North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
You have not been to Grable, Indiana yet, sir.
I'll make that trip.
We have to fix this.
I'll make that trip. I like to travel.
Seeing you. Good seeing you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your knowledge.
So you want to start in, sir?
Go ahead. Let's do it.
Get going. As they say, let's go. Hey, this is Turf Seed Data A to Z. It is going to be a deep dive into data. If you're a numbers person, obviously, if you're a turf grass person, if you're a fescues freaks person, if you're a numbers person, the next 3 podcasts are for you. Ole, we might even go 4, just depending on how many questions we get, the feedback we get. But we're going to do at least 3 of these. We're going to open by talking about the importance of data, where you find it, and then we're going to do a tour of the National Turfgrass Evaluation Program website. I'm going to give you a tour. I will be your tour guide. Then we're going to go through how to read data, what it means. There's some really cool stuff ahead of us. So, Ole, why don't we get started here, sir? You ready?
Let's do it.
Ole, this is Seed Tag. It's our Calypso High Performance Tall Fescue Blend. You and I, sir, did a How to Read a Seed Tag podcast 2 years ago.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
At
on the
least two.
KOTG. Hmm.
We talked about all of this wonderful information on the seed tag, like what does pure seed mean? What does germination mean? What's the difference between other crop and weed? Remember that? So we did a deep dive on how to read a seed tag. Oli, if I were to ask you, here's 4 varieties on our Calypso High Performance Blend. We got Titanium GLS, Dynamite GLS, Raptor LS Tall Fescue, and Serenade Tall Fescue. If I were to ask you, hey, Oli, which one of those 4 tall fescues have the darkest green color? Would you be able to answer that by just looking at that seed tag?
No, sir.
Doesn't say a thing about color, does it? How
No.
about fine texture? Could you tell me which one's the finest texture?
Mm-mm.
How about shade tolerant?
No, sir.
Traffic tolerant? Are they fast establishing? No, the seed tag has great information, but it doesn't tell us anything about this, does it? And here's the challenge, Oli, for all of us in the turf seed and the turf and landscape ornamental horticulture business. What we're buying is what I have in green. We're buying disease resistance. This is the question. What do we want our seed to do? We're not just buying purity and of course we want it to germinate. Only it's like a pickup truck. Yes, I buy a pickup truck because I want my truck to start. Yes, of course you do. And it has to have an engine, transmission, 4 wheels, and a steering wheel and gets me from point A to point B. Yes, those are like the basics of the basics. But Oli, you know a lot about engines. You know a lot about pickup trucks. And people buy pickup trucks for the attributes and the benefits they give them, right? Like, do you want a diesel engine or a gas engine? How much horsepower do you need to pull those landscaping trailers? Do you want a box truck, a flatbed truck, a standard step side pickup? See, these are all attributes, and that's why you buy a pickup truck, right? This is why we buy grass seed. We want it to do something, and those are the things it does for us. Like if you're a lawn care applicator, you want a high quality turf that keeps your customers happy, so your customers stay with you, right?
Yes,
If
sir.
you're a fescue freak and you want to win lawn of the month, you have lawn of the month every month, Oli. I love that. You got to know something besides the seed tag, because if you're going to win lawn of the month, what you're paying for are what I have in green, all the attributes, the drought tolerance and the dark color and the brown patch resistance, right? That's what you're paying for. So we got to figure out, we cannot get that information from the seed tag. We got to look somewhere else, don't we? So Oli, I'm going to go through this and get your reaction to it. Marketing sell sheets. Here we go. I have written marketing sell sheets. We got marketing sell sheets for all of our heritage products. We got marketing sell sheets for almost every product we sell. Chemicals, fertilizers, seeds. We got product guides. We got all kinds of marketing materials because you want to let people know what you have, right? Here's the issue with marketing sell sheets, and I'll just put up some examples. I've got hundreds of these on my laptop because that's my job. I study these. This is one called Blacktail. I got highlighted in yellow. Blacktail was highly rated in the NTEP, North, Central, and Transition regions. They're telling us it was highly rated. Top 10 for turfgrass quality in NTEP LPI Group 2. That's interesting, isn't it? Then it says it has great brown patch resistance. Okay. Excellent shade tolerance. Great density during the growing season, and they got the words traffic tolerance on there. Then they put a little chart right over there. And they say it comes from ntep.org. They've just put a few varieties on there. By the way, that does not have an LSD value on it. So we really can't tell if those numbers are different than any other one. But they're accentuating the positive. That's what marketing does. You want to accentuate the positive about your products. We do that at Heritage. We let people know the good things about our products. But Oli, All that accentuation has to be backed up by facts, data, and science, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't make up stuff about azoxystrobin fungicide. We can't make up stuff about our strike three-way uh, herbicide. We can't make up stuff. You got to have facts and data in context. In context. So it gives users the ability to see how well these seeds will perform. That's just one example. Let me do another one. This is called Thor. Top 5 in NTEP LPI Group 1. Great winter color. Excellent spring green up. Good. Last one was great brown patch resistance. This one says good brown patch resistance. Then we got excellent shade tolerance, right? Okay, those all sound good. How about another one? This is one called Rebounder. Got highlighted in yellow. Excellent wear tolerance. Recovery, high brown patch resistance, aggressive tillering, excellent turf quality. Brown patch pressure. Under severe brown patch pressure, it shines due to its superior performance. Do you notice a trend here, Ole?
They all sound wonderful.
They all sound wonderful. They do sound wonderful.
My question is there
Yeah.
dates on this though? Like, I might have scored really high in 1997.
Yes.
So
the year. I mean, most of the time they don't even tell you the year that they were entered or how old they are. Here's another one. You see the theme here: drought tolerance, resist, brown patch. This is what they all say, and it makes a end user get the feeling like, well, maybe they're just all the same. There's no difference between them. Here's one. Unitas has excellent brown patch resistance. Every one of these, Ole, these are all tall fescues. Every one of these states they're good, better, best, superior, excellent on brown patch resistant. It makes people think, hey, these are, if I am planting tall fescue in North Carolina, Tennessee, the transition zone like Missouri, Kansas, all through there, gee, I'll get good brown patch resistance, won't I? The only way we're going to be able to really tell is to go look at data and facts. And I'm going to get there in just a minute. So I'm not opposed to marketing sell sheets. We use these, but they got to be based on, they've got to be grounded in reality. So the person, the end user who buys, whether it's a fescue freak or whether it's a golf superintendent or a lawn care operator, can make high quality fact-based decisions. That's the point here. How else can we tell how our turf grass tall fescue varieties are performing? Well, one is to, look at marketing sell sheets. We got to look at something besides the tag. Let's look at some marketing sell sheets. Other one is to check with people who are actually growing the varieties that you're looking at. This is my buddy, Steven. Ole, I've mentioned Steven to you. He lives 2 miles from me here in northern Indiana. I helped him renovate his lawn a couple years ago with Artemis. That is an Artemis front lawn. And I did it for several reasons. One, he's my buddy, like to help him out. But the other reason is, now that I got an Artemis lawn 2 miles from me, I can take Heritage products and I can do some testing. How's our AquaCare wetting agent doing? How's our Gravity G Plus 26010 going to be doing on that Artemis lawn? How's our 50-pound bags of our black caviar granular humate product going to perform? You follow me? So I can check and see with others who are growing the varieties I'm interested in and just see how they're doing. Ole, what's your thought on checking with others? I know you've got you're the founder of Fescue Freaks, 15,000 members. You post, one of the best people I post. Your bumper music is superb. I wish I could do that, but for some reason I just, that's not my skill set. Checking with others. You do that a lot, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of factors, and what's good about this and him being down the road from you is you have a test plot that you can visually see what's going on. You can find out what the pH is. You can see what kind of nutrients it's getting, because, a lot of people think, I'm going to buy that grass seed and everything's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think you talked one time before about the three-legged stool. You've got the grass seed to start with, and you got to do some other stuff. You got your practices, and then you got I can't remember exactly what you said, but you got to do more than just drop the seed and walk away. There is yeah, there we go.
So this is the
three-legged stool.
The platform. The one leg is soil. The other leg is sideways. This is going to be varieties or cultivars.
Mm-hmm.
And the third is your
green keeping skill.
Management, MGMT, management practices, soil, varieties, management. That is the worst stool ever written on YouTube or drawn on YouTube. Only this is a little known fact. Most adults, their drawing skills have not changed since third grade. And I am the emblematic person. I can't draw a thing. But that's a platform. You want high performing turf grass, a lawn, a commercial property, a football field, a soccer field, soil, grass seed varieties, and your management practices. You got to get those things in order. If you're missing one, can you still be successful? Yeah, but the probability goes up dramatically when you can get those three things right. And yes, granted, soil is going to be tough, right? Because some people don't have a lot of control over the soil, but you do have control over amendments, things, management practices like aerification, adding humate to your soil, and you certainly have control over the varieties. So if you want a platform or a high quality HQ turf, put a box around that one. HQ turf, three things have to happen, Ole. What's your thoughts on that?
I see it. I mean, it's good because, like I say, I've read comments where say, these cultivars are not dark, the slimy. Well, there's something missing because that cultivar in that bag can be dark, and it's bred has genetics to be dark. So, what's missing? What is your? That's one thing. Like over the years, I've sort of slowly turned into, I guess, I don't know if you want to say a greenskeeper or what you want to say, a turf manager or something, but you have to have other things than just dropping seed and walking away.
The management things, we're talking nutrients. We're talking mowing height, sharp mower blades, aeration. We're talking any type of control products, herbicide, insecticide, fungicide. The right timing of all of those, a turf program in the hot summertime, wetting agents. So that's all under management, but you got to have those three things. I know this relates to agriculture. And I just heard this last week. Do you know what the record yield on corn is in the United States? Any guesses, Ole?
I'd hate to know.
A 200 bushel field, 250 bushel field is pretty good. That's really good. The record is over 600 bushels. And I believe the person who did this, if I'm right, was either North or South Carolina where he did this. And he basically took for corn now, but the same principle applies for turf seed or lawns, soil, genetic variety, and all the management principles, and ask the question, what has to happen to get 600 bushels of corn? And you scientifically go through all those. That's what he did. He executed, and he set the U.S. record for corn yield. Unbelievable, isn't it? It's actually not, but if you break it down into these components and you're not getting the lawn you want, something's going on with either one of those three things, soil, varieties, or management. And obviously the environment and the weather and the rainfall, the humidity, all temperature, mix, minimum, maximum temperatures all play a role, but we don't have any control over those, right? These are the ones we have more control over. So that's the point. That's the point. Okay. We can check in with others over social media, and I put your the fescue freaks here, Ole. I think what you've done with the fescue freaks, I think you're up to around 15,000 members now, if I read it correctly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We can keep track of trends. We can look at trends. You know, I keep track of all the posts, even the ones that are trending not in our favor, or people criticizing our seed, or something's going on. I track all those. I pay attention to them, and that gives me good feedback and information. So I track all the good things. I track some of the negative comments, and that helps me get a pretty good data set, a good picture of what's going on in the world of turf seed. So social media is good. Checking with others is good, but Ole, we got to have a way to measure things. Got to have a way to count things and measure. How do we measure? Ole, are you a pepper grower, or do you like peppers?
I do. I grow some jalapenos.
Yeah.
I've grew some ghost peppers one time, but I didn't eat them.
And why didn't you eat them?
They were fun to grow, but I didn't have the guts to eat them.
Any pepper?
Carolina Reaper. That's what I grew right there. Carolina Reaper.
I grow peppers. My new variety is these Jimmy Nardello Italian frying peppers. They're sweet. They got what we have here is the Scoville heat scale for chili peppers.
Mm-hmm.
Guy by the name of Dr. Scoville was measuring capsaicin in all kinds of peppers. And you can actually measure these. And you can actually tell, like, a bell pepper is 0. There's no heat to it. Carolina Reaper is 2.9 million units. Oh my God. You know, this one over here is 1,000. The Jimmy Nardello is 1,000. I love them. Just love them. I eat poblanos, guajilos, jalapenos. Ole, I will go on this scale as high as a serrano in some Indian food. A little coconut milk helps, but those are at 22,000 Scoville heat units. Carolina Reapers, I'm going to pass because I know what a 22,000 feels like on my tongue and my throat. And that's about my limit, sir. So the world of pepper growers have a scale, a measurable scale where all these peppers are rated on. That's pretty helpful, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So we need a scale to measure turf seed. And Ole, where I want to go next is the National Turfgrass Evaluation Program. That is our scale. And that's right here. I'm at the website. This is the world's largest turf seed database. It's ntep.org. You type that in your search engine, it will take you here. Only there's a few other search engines, or excuse me, few other databases. One is the cooperative breeder trials, and they take place in the United States. A lot of the plant breeders will put their early experimental varieties in plots around the country. University of Minnesota is one of the testers. I think Purdue does some, Arkansas does some. So some of the land grant universities test these for the breeders, and it's kind of like the minor leagues of the world of turfgrass data. They put them through these initial trials to see how they do, and then the winners of those trials go into the National Turfgrass Evaluation Program. That would be like the major leagues of turfgrass data. So the cooperative breeder trial is one. The Sports Turf STRI, Sports Turf Research Institute, STRI, in England is similar to NTEP, but they work with a lot of the European breeders, and they focus on Europe. So this one's the largest, peer-reviewed by all the professors that are doing the research. It's published. The data is replicated. This is the best database in the world. And this is the website. And if you want to go here, this is how you get here. Let me give you a little quick tour. Got all these links and these buttons right up front. This is the latest data that's come out and has been reported. Like here, it was go down below right here, tall fescue report. This is the data for 2023, is published, always published a year later. So the researchers have to collect the data in the year before, and then 1 year later, it gets researched, analyzed, and published. And it was just published here back in June. They got a lot of different reports here. So these are some of the latest ones. If you click right over here, all NTEP reports, select a turfgrass species. That is the best place to go to start your journey here. And if I click on that, you will see all the different species of grass that the NTEP group, and rather than just keep saying National Turfgrass Evaluation Program, the common language is the NTEPs as an abbreviation. So in the world of turfgrass, when you say NTEPs, people are going to know what you're talking about. So they divide these up into cool season and warm season grasses. 2 types of bent grass trials, fairway tee and putting green. The fine fescues, all the chewings and the sheeps and the blues and all the creeping reds, those are in that group. 2 types of Kentucky bluegrass, a high input and a low input. They got perennial ryegrass trials. There's tall fescue, which we're going to look at right there. Got 2 interesting ones, a cool season grass low input and a cool season drought. I don't use those quite as much. They're interesting, but only they don't put all the tall fescue and all the blues and all the perennial ryegrass varieties in that trial. It'd be just huge. So when I go to look at that data and I want to do like a dare to compare one seed tag versus another, almost always I can never find enough tall fescues to really help out a customer. So the data's there. It's really good, but there's just not enough varieties in there to be practical. Warm season grasses, if you're in the South, lots of Bermuda grass data, buffalo grass, zoysia grass. St. Augustine grass is grass that's grown around Disney World. If you're in Orlando by the hotels, you'll see a lot of St. Augustine grass. Seashore paspalum is a salt-tolerant grass they do some research on. And warm season greens, that's for dwarf Bermuda grass in the South. So that's all the species that they have. We're going to click on tall fescue here. And when you click on tall fescue, here's what shows up. All of the NTEP trials. Oli, these go back to 1983. Lots of historical data. I don't think were you a little fescue freak in 1983?
1983. I liked grass. I liked fescue. I didn't know what fescue was versus anything else, but I like mowing and trying to stripe back in the day.
That is interesting. So
I used to make about $20 on a Saturday for mowing.
Nice. I didn't know that. So you were mowing lawns to earn money. That's awesome. Hey, by the way, I have told several people your comment when we saw breakdancing in the latest Olympics in Paris, France. You said we ought to have lawn striping as an Olympic sport.
Yeah.
I love that idea. Probably better than breakdancing in that Australian breakdancer.
I would watch that over to breakdancing.
I would too. Lawn striping. I would be so in on that lawn striping. So in. Okay. So here's all the trials. These are more historical. Most of these varieties from 1983 to 1996 aren't even in production anymore. Some of the ones from 2001 are still being used. Then we start getting the 2006, 2012. Those are previous generation tall fescues. And then the latest is 2018. And only they come up with progress reports every year. They run these trials about 5 years apart, 5 to 6 years on average, 96, 2001, 2006. And these trials last for 5 years. So they publish a progress report for each year, and those are the updates. That's the new data that the researchers collect. And then at the end of the fifth year, like these would be actually the 6th year, they publish a final report called a summary. Here's one for the previous generation, final report. So we're in the latest generation of tall fescues, and you've heard me, Oli, say this so many times. The reason we have plant breeders is because when it comes to all plants, but tall fescue in particular, the reason we have plant breeders is they breed better varieties, don't they? That's their job. More resistant to brown patch, more resistant to gray leaf spot, darker green color, deeper roots for drought tolerance. That's their job. That's what they do. So in general, selecting turfgrass varieties, choose a variety from the latest generation. You'll be better off than choosing one from the previous generations. I'm broad brushing just a little bit, Oli, but not too much. Choose any variety of tall fescue from the 2018 National Tall Fescue Test. The probability is high it's going to outperform a previous generation variety from 2001, 2006, or 2012. I'm painting with a broad brush, but not too broad. Oli, what's your thoughts on that?
There's a lot. Sorry, I got distracted there for a minute.
No problem. We're talking about latest generation versus previous generation. And you know my story, don't you?
Oh, yeah. So on that, as far as that goes, I mean, each year they're trying, I guess basically what you're getting at is they're trying to improve the cultivars to where, you know, less fungicides, less water, less inputs, you know, lateral spread. There's a lot of genetic improvement over the color. You know, back years ago, I always thought that, you know, to have a super dark lawn, you had to have Kentucky bluegrass. But, you know, nowadays your tall fescue cultivars are just as dark, if not darker than most of your bluegrasses.
Oli, that is such a good point. Way back here in the early 80s, most tall fescue was not even fit to put on a home lawn. That's why these three ways, the bluegrass, ryegrass, fine fescues, were so popular. You put a new home in, this is back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even into the early 90s. You're all in the cool season north, at least. You're putting in bluegrass, ryegrass, fine fescue. Only that has totally flipped. The tall fescues, most of the breeding on cool season grasses has been funneled into the tall fescue species. And there's reason for that. The deep root system, the drought tolerance, the lower maintenance. When plant breeders saw those characteristics in that species, they went to work on how do we breed in darker color, finer texture, aggressive tillering, spreading rhizomes. And they spent a lot of money and the results have paid off. Some of these new tall fescues have blade widths not that much more, even very similar to Kentucky bluegrass. It's unbelievable how much work the plant breeders have done. Hats off to them. So here's, we have right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 progress reports. And next week, we'll be talking about the Turf Tech tool that I built and I do a lot of posting on. That new data is in our new Turf Tech tool. So we'll be talking about that next week. You don't want to miss next week. We'll send a notice out. We'll put a notice out on the Fescue Freaks. You don't want to miss it. So Oli, what I'm going to do here is click on the latest 2023 data progress report. And we're in tall fescue. This is the latest generation, latest progress report. When I click on here, it takes you to this National Tall Fescue Test. We're part of the 2018 National Tall Fescue Test 2023 data. And this is the latest data. Let's start off and let's go to at the top, location entry info. Locations submitting data for 2023. They will tell you where the data is coming from. And here is the chart showing where the data is coming from. The data is done at land grant universities. What's a land grant university? It's where they typically have agricultural research stations. These are your Rutgers, it's your NC States, it's your Purdue, Michigan State, Ohio State, all across the country where they do agricultural research. Most of them have a turf or horticulture program where turf seed falls under. So Connecticut, over at stores, the city stores, that state code there, Oli, when you're looking at these NTEP charts, is called CT for Connecticut. It has the numeral 1, meaning that's the Connecticut number 1 location. There may be more than one location that does testing at Connecticut, but this is Connecticut number 1. They've got Delaware, Georgia, West Lafayette, my home state, and my alma mater, Purdue, IN1. That's West Lafayette they are doing tall fescue research there. Look at Iowa, though. Iowa 1, that's at Ames, Iowa. Iowa 2, that's the traffic study at Ames, Iowa. And then Iowa 3, that's the shade study. These are all at Ames, Iowa. And they got 3 NTEP locations. I think I counted that there's about 25 locations that produce NTEP data. And that gives you a pretty good cross-section of the country. Oli, not every state is listed. As a matter of fact, most of the states don't have a research station. What are we going to do about that? Missouri is not on there. I'm sorry, Oli. Kansas is, but Missouri's not. Let's see. Rhode Island. Rhode Island's not on there. Maine is not on there. Yeah, I mean, is Arkansas grow tall fescue, northern Arkansas? Arkansas is not on there, Ole.
So far as like North Carolina, is there just one spot in North Carolina that does testing?
There's one spot this year that's doing testing.
Okay.
So they have other locations that they'll have an NC1 and NC2. They think they might even have an NC3. So they got different ones. But for this year, for tall fescue, these are the locations. So I wanted to take just a quick minute. And when you look at these state codes and you see CT1 or you see IA2, that's what we're talking about. Those are the different locations. So don't want to dwell a lot on that, but those are the different locations. And that's right here under your location entry info. Next one is entries and sponsors. We got the entries and sponsors in the 2018 tall fescue test. This is the list of all the varieties and all of the sponsors who entered those. And there are 132 in this trial. Only some of these that have an asterisk by them. Right over here, entry number 1, Naturally Green Carlton Seed Company has an asterisk. That means it's commercially available. See that? Commercially available in the U.S. or any other country in 2024. Some of these and they have a commercial name. Paramount is a standard. That standard is a variety from the previous generation that the NTEP committees put in their trials so they can check and see how much better the new ones are. So Paramount would be a standard, and it's available. Then we got these weird looking letters over here, Oli. DLFPS 321/3693, sponsors DLF USA. That is a tall fescue that has not been commercialized yet, and that's called an experimental number. The DLF obviously stands for DLF. They got their own code. I'm not sure what the PS stands for. But the 321 and the 3693 are experimental code numbers that DLF researchers use. And then when it's ready to be put on the market, then they will put a commercial name to it. So you can see, just gives you a list of who's in the trial. If you want to find out on your tag, if I have a tall fescue seed tag and I want to look and see if these tall fescues are in the latest generation, this is one place you could go and just go down the list and look. These are not in alphabetical order, Oli, and I'm not sure why. That would make it a lot easier to find, or even by sponsor order. So I am not sure why they do it that way, but that's how they do it, sir. Any thoughts on the names and sponsors?
No, sir. So there's 132 cultivars there.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're going to be buying and seeding the top tall fescue varieties in North America, they're going to come from this list right here. And it's a great way to check. Am I using the latest cultivars? And they're right there. Location, site, description, management. This is interesting. All those same locations there, we can look at what are the characteristics of those NTEP sites. I think I posted a few things on Fescue Freaks here. Last month. And I was over at Rutgers at the Turfgrass Field Day. I sent some photos of NTEP test plots. We were over at the Adelphia location where they do a lot of their lawn care research. And that would be NJ2 at Adelphia. So if we go to NJ2, they're on a sandy loam soil. Well, I just had to pick one. They didn't report the pH. Let's go to NJ1. That's at New Brunswick. It's a loam soil, pH is 5.6 to 6, so it's on the acidic side, right? Here's your phosphorus test, 61 to 150 pounds. Potassium, 241 to 375 pounds. Watch the pounds per acre versus parts per million there. Nitrogen, how many pounds per square foot did they put on? 1.1 to 2. It's full sun. Mowing height on these tall fescues, 1.1 to 1.5 inches, Oli. Look at that.
That's interesting.
Yep. Irrigation to prevent stress. So they weren't irrigated to win lawn of the month. They were just there to prevent stress. Look at some of the other mowing heights. Massachusetts, 2.6 to 3. See that? Here's one down in Virginia. Mowing height, 3.1 to 3.5. So we got a bunch of different mowing heights here, don't we?
Yes, sir.
Look at the pH levels in Georgia, 4.6 to 5.5. We're on the acidic side.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we would all have a few things to say about nutrient availability in some acidic soils, wouldn't we? In Utah, we're on the alkaline side, 7.6 to 8.5 out in Utah. Yeah, Oklahoma, 7.1 to 7.5. So we got a whole range of soil textures, irrigation practices, mowing heights at all these different sites. Any comments on that or your thoughts?
That just goes to show you like a wide spectrum. And we have 2 comments here, like right here, WG Smoke, talking about the difference. That's like me. I've got 2 different properties. I've got a little test plot at my shop that is red clay. The CECs are in the 11s, totally different than 5 miles where my house is, where I do not have red clay. I got a total different type of soil that CECs are around the 5. And it's just totally different, even 5 miles. So it's interesting. Yes, sir.
Oli, I was with Shane, our category manager for agronomy up in the Northeast at our Aquarius branch here a month ago, making sales calls. This topic came up, and I think Shane's comments very appropriate when we were talking about, variation on soils and soil types and those kind of things. His comment was, I would argue for a lot of the lawns, we were with a large lawn care operator. A lot of your lawns, sir, the soil in the front lawn is different than the soil in the back lawn. You dig basements, you dig driveways, you do all this disturbed soil stuff. It's hard to, keep track of that variability. That's why that stool or the 3-legged stool is so important. The other key takeaway, and we're going to talk about this next week, when people want to use the location in their state. Hey, I live in North Carolina and I want to use North Carolina data. Well, Oli, I live in Indiana, so I want to use Purdue data. You start looking at the actual details of what the NTEP sites are like. My comment is, and I'll get into this more next week with you and our group here. If your conditions, agronomic, environmental, and management conditions, all 3 of those, if they are the same or close or similar to your state NTEP location, I'm all for using it. I'm all for it. The fact of the matter is, how many lawns, in like the example you just gave me, Oli, how many lawns, here's NC1, how many lawns, or even the fescue freaks that are listening now in North Carolina, their soil is a sandy loam. Their pH is 6.1 to 6.5. Their phosphorus levels are 61 to 150. Their potassium is 0 to 150. Nitrogen, 3 to 4 pounds. Mowing height, 2.1 to 2.5 inches. How many are like that? I would venture to guess if we did soil sampling and we did mowing heights and all these attributes across the state of North Carolina, we would see variation all over the board, Oli, wouldn't we?
Yes, sir.
So we're going to talk about how to handle that next week. But that's site location data. Let me close that out there. Site location and data collected. Here's a quick chart. All those same states There's attributes across the top. We got a lot of quality ratings, and it tells you which state the ratings were taken from. Got a couple scroll downs here. You know, spring density. Spring density ratings were taken in Iowa. They were taken in Indiana, North Carolina. Not the reason I wanted to show this, not every attribute is tested for in every single state. Why is that? See these entries and sponsors again, Oli? 132 of them. Who funds all this research? Who puts up the money? Who puts up the money is the seed companies. And each one of those varieties are around $10,000 a variety to enter into the NTEP tests. And I believe they're raising that entry fee to $11,000 this year. Should ask our producer Tyler over here, what's 132 times 10,000?
A lot.
I think it's somewhere around 1.3 million, isn't it?
A lot.
That's just for the tall fescue trial. Only there's like 8 or 9 different species. It costs a lot of money to do this.
You think I could take my 1 acre field over here and start testing for North Carolina?
Hey, you know,
I can make some good money, couldn't
I? If Dr. Grady Miller asked me, and he never would, but if he asked me if I knew of somebody who would be interested, I would give him your name, Oli. So that's what's funding all this. And if your conditions at your home lawn are close or match these site conditions in your state, yeah, use your own state. But that's rarely the case. That's rarely the case. Okay, back to this. That's all of those. Oli, let's start looking into the actual data. You start at the top, work your way down. Turfgrass quality. Here's all the quality scores. You got this weird thing called an LPI group. We'll go through that. Quality for different climatic regions. There's all the regions that are tested for. Transition, Northeast, Southeast, Upper Pacific. Data under traffic stress, Iowa, and hey, New Brunswick, New Jersey. Shade trials, drought trials, low mowing. Oli, we got quality at Blacksburg, Virginia, tall fescue under low mowing conditions. One's 1.5 inches. Next week, we need to check that out, or the next couple weeks. We get into color, genetic color, talk about what that is, winter color, fall color, right on down the list. Let me give you a list of attributes here. Oli, can you see this screen here?
Yes, sir.
Here's all the attributes. In the latest, I called it 2019 to 2024. Turn my closed caption off. This is the 2018 trial. I've got 2019 to 2024 data, all attributes. These are all the attributes that they're testing for. They got color attributes, genetic, how it's genetically programmed to produce dark green color, spring green up, and then color in the fall and winter. Look at the densities. Percent living ground cover, spring, summer, fall. Standard density scores, spring, summer, fall. All the diseases. Cool temperature brown patch, regular brown patch warm, which is right, the standard brown patch we all talk about. They got specific site locations in Delaware, Indiana, North Carolina. That would be good to look at because brown patch is a big deal. Oli, your favorite disease, gray leaf spot. There's testing for that one. And that's becoming, in many cases, even more important than brown patch, but both of them are a big deal. They got other tests like pink patch, pythium, red thread, pink snow mold, Tifula blight, drought tolerance, wilting just showed up in the latest progress report. So we can take a look at wilting tolerance. Then establishment, like seedling vigor. We want our seeds to germinate and establish quickly. So they got establishment trials, leaf texture, turf uniformity. And then look at all the quality. Quality in the fall, these LPI, local performance index groups, 1 through 5. Then you got your regional groups, the North Central, Northeast Pacific, and so on and so forth. Mowing heights, you got those, drought stress, shade, traffic, and then percent weeds. So those are all the attributes. I think I counted about 54. on there. 54 attributes. That's a lot.
53 at the top, I believe.
53. There we go. I got it. I was close. 53 total attributes. Yeah. So there's all kinds of testing going on. So we got to determine, well, which attributes of those 53 are meaningful, important, and impactful for my lawn, right? That's the key here. Which ones are most impactful? So that's what we got to look at. So not all of them are equal. They're not all equal. Let's go through turfgrass quality. And I want to spend just a little bit of time. You know what? We've got a handful of minutes remaining, and we're barely getting started, Ole.
That's why we're going to have multiple parts, and that's all good.
Multiple parts. Let me go over here on what these attributes are. If we're going to be knowledgeable and using data the right way, we have to understand what these things mean. So it's okay. We're probably going to be having at least 4 doing our deep dive here, 4 podcasts. Okay, so let's start off, and we'll get as far as we can, Ole. NTEP, leader in evaluation of turfgrass species. Yes. The world's largest. Yes. Breeders, researchers, extension specialists use NTEP data to determine adaptation and how they perform. Seed companies use the data. Government agencies use the data. End users, golf course, sports superintendents, sod growers, lawn care operators, fescue freaks all use data. And it has made NTEP the standard turf industry database in the USA, and I would say the world. It talks about using scientific data, evaluation of turfgrass species, and Ole, this is very important. However, the evaluation of turfgrass species and cultivars is a difficult and complex issue. Furthermore, turfgrass evaluation is generally a subjective process. I don't like that word, but it's where we are right now. It's a subjective process based on visual estimating factors like color, stand density, leaf texture, uniformity, quality. These factors cannot be measured in the same way as other agricultural crops. Turfgrass quality is not a measure of yield or nutritive value. It's a measure of aesthetics. That's the world we live in, Ole. It's the world of lawns and beauty and, everything from erosion and heat dissipation and all those wonderful things. But it's not like corn or soybeans where you can actually measure the yield. Hey, this variety gets 200 bushels per acre and this variety gets only 180. So it's a little different. Subjective measures of this type are always subject to criticism and concern. Kevin Morris is the director of the National Turfgrass Evaluation Program. He's been there for years. He runs the world's largest turf seed database. He takes his share of incoming flack, Ole. If you're going to run a Facebook page of 15,000 people, not everybody's going to be jolly and happy. And what's the new word now in culture? Joy, filled with joy. We're all joy, right? Not everybody's going to do that because people have different opinions about things. So my standard answer is, hey, National Turfgrass Evaluation Program is not perfect. I've studied this half of my life almost. It's not perfect. Does anybody have a better database? Does anybody have a better way to evaluate cultivars? Yes, some are using visual ratings. That's true. But they're trained and they have training in how to do this to be as consistent as possible. Ole, if someone has a better idea, lay it on me, please. NTEP uses evaluators, and these are typically grad students at the land grant universities working underneath a professor. Up in Michigan State, I was there this summer talking to Dr. Kevin Frank. He was working one of the NTEP plots, planting a new one. I was talking to him, he has grad students who help him, and that teaches them how to evaluate these cultivars, these varieties. So that's what they use. There's a whole process. I won't read the whole thing. How you mow, evaluating on cloud covered days to avoid shed, those kind of things. But they're all trained to do it. Most of the ratings, this is important, collected on the NTEP trials are based on a 1 to 9 scale. 1 is the poorest or lowest, and 9 is the best or the highest. 1 to 9 is typical. 1 is the worst. 9 is the best. So how's turfgrass quality evaluated? It's based on a 9 being outstanding or ideal turf and 1 being the poorest or dead. Hear that, Oli? 1 being the poorest or dead.
Dead.
Now, this is a key point, Oli. A rating of 6. These are the raw scores in all the files we're going to be looking at. These are the raw scores. A rating of 6 or above is generally considered acceptable. So they go 1 to 9. 6 is generally considered acceptable. They don't actually define acceptable here. Oli, I'll give you my definition of it. My definition of a 6, you're not going to win the Fescue Freaks Lawn of the Month with an NTEP score of 6. But if you're a customer of a lawn care service, you're probably not going to drop your lawn care service. If your lawn is a 6, you're probably going to be thinking, it's not perfect, but they do a decent job, and I think I'll stay with them one more year. That would be my definition of what a 6 is. Thoughts on that, Oli?
Yes, sir. I agree.
Quality rating of 9 is for the ideal or perfect grass. 1 is poor or dead. So there's a distinction, right? So quality ratings vary based on turfgrass species and intensive management time of year. Within species, quality ratings are relative. Only this is critical. Within species, quality ratings are relative. Among species, they are not. They're not. For instance, a score of quality of 6 on a Kentucky bluegrass and a score of 6 on a tall fescue, they both have a score of 6. Those are not the same quality because they're different species. Whenever we're talking about NTEP data and comparing one score with another, we're always talking about within the tall fescue species. So a score of 9 on quality, on tall fescue is the highest score possible, right? But a 9 quality on tall fescue is not going to be the same as a 9 quality on a bent grass putting green or on high performing Kentucky bluegrass. Those are going to look different to most people. So these scores are all relative within a species. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So quality ratings are not based on color alone, but on a combination of color density, uniformity, and texture, and disease and environmental stresses. Color, density, uniformity, and texture. And this is really a good point. For example, one turf may receive a quality rating based on a rating value of 5 based on color and density, while another may receive the same value based on disease incident and its impact on turf grass density. So there's a little variation around here on how you reach these quality scores, because that's what everybody's looking for is high quality turf. But just some general considerations. Ratings of 6 or above are considered acceptable. And that's a key point. They go from 1 to 9. 1 is the poorest or dead, and 9 is the high ideal turf. So, Oli, we have gone, it looks like 1 hour right now. I've got plenty more to talk about, but we've got 2 or 3 more podcasts that are coming up, sir. What's your thought here?
Well, I say this sounds like a good spot to pause, and we come back next Tuesday and go for another hour.
We're going to be back here next Tuesday night at what time? 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Tuesday night Eastern time. We hope everybody can join us. And what's the date on that? September 3rd. September 3rd, 8 p.m. We're going to pick up right here. Hope this was helpful. We are doing a deep dive. There's Oli, and the reason I will sum it up this way. There is so much talk, information, misinformation, opinions about what NTEP data is. I just think it's a good time to dive into these.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get into rows and columns and numbers. We're going to get into more charts next week, but we got to get this background.
Yeah.
So
we got to break the surface before we can start getting into the good stuff, until we can get into yeah. So
all righty.
The beginning.
Well, thank you everybody for joining, and Ole, I will let you close it out, but it is great being a partner with you, sir. Thank you so much.
I appreciate all the info, and hopefully by the time we make it to number 3 or 4, we've educated some people, because no one else in the turf seed world has give any kind of data of this nature. It's only been brand, whatever's on the front of the bag. It's never been anything about teaching people to read a seed tag, and it's never been anything about teaching people about actual cultivars. It's just always been buy my grass seed. So next week, let's dig a little deeper next week.
See you then, sir.
Thank you. See you, everybody.